Okay, I'm going to give people a couple of minutes to see if they need to log on. We're getting ready to start my first ever Steek. I have prepared some liquid courage because I'm going to need it. Pardon my awful chipping polish. I kind of broke my nail off yesterday and I haven't had time to fix it yet. Okay. So a little backstory for those of you guys that don't know what steeking is. In traditional Fair Isle and stranded knits, you generally knit your whole sweater in the round because it's easier to see the colorwork developing and to maintain even tension and all of that jazz. And so you knit it in the round, and then when you're done, you cut openings for like a cardigan front or for your neckline or possibly sleeves or wherever you want it to open and either lay flat or insert a zipper or button band or something. I've done some color work before and always intended to do steeking before, but I never really got around to it before. So I am now going to cut my first ever steek. I finally picked out a pattern and completed one that I really love. It's the Damiyaka Lopa, which is also in English the ladies' flea cardigan. So I'll show you what that looks like. So this is my sweater that I knit, and pardon, it hasn't been blocked and my cats were laying on it, so it's covered in cat hair. But this is the Damiyaka Lopa. So it's called the ladies' flea cardigan because of all these little lice stitch or fleas that are, you have a background and then you just strand one color, and every so often you add a little dot of color with one stitch. And then I did this stranded colorwork yoke. So you start at the top and then you work down in the yoke, then you do the body, then you put the sleeves on hold for this pattern. So I worked all of this down. And then I went back and picked up the sleeves. Then for this pattern, she actually has you do the button band after you do the rest of the knitting, before you cut the steek. So I went back and picked up button bands and knit those. As you can see, I haven't put my buttons on yet. And now I'm going to cut up the middle of this for my steek. So that's what we'll be doing today. And I apologize if you guys can't see, my camera was giving me some crap right before I went live. Of course, right before you go live, it's like, oh, I'm going to misbehave. So hopefully you guys can see everything. And the last time I did a live video, I couldn't see any comments coming up, so people were saying stuff and I didn't see them until after the video was done and posted, so I couldn't reply in real time. And I'm not seeing any comments right now, so if you're there and watching, would you go ahead and just leave me a comment and I'll see if I can see it. And if I don't, I'm really, really sorry. I'm very technologically backward and it takes me forever to learn simple things that a 4-year-old can do on their phone. So I'm still learning how to look at comments and everything. Oh, hi, Steven. I see your comment. Yay. Hey, Breck. Glad you guys are here. Thank you for watching. I'm going to start cutting in just a couple minutes. I'm just going to have some more liquid courage first. I'm really not that nervous. I'm more excited about doing it, but I'm not going to lie. I've never cut up a sweater before. Oh, thank you. I love this sweater too. It's I actually found out about it because I was watching the Yarngasm podcast. Kristen of Woolenvine Yarns does the Yarngasm podcast on YouTube, and it's probably my favorite yarn podcast, and she was doing a knit along for this sweater back in like September, and I was horribly late to the party, but I decided I wanted to knit one too. So I'm using Knit Picks yarn. I love their palette. It's 100% non-superwash wool, and it comes in over 150 incredibly vivid shades, and I really liked how you can see this like super bright pink is my secondary color. I really liked the colors of this one. Okay, so if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and do the deed, do the cutting. I'm actually kind of nervous because I think that the actual cutting is going to take like 3 seconds, and just getting up the gumption is going to take me a couple minutes. So, cocktail. In case you guys are wondering, my cocktail is blue to match my hair. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's gin, a liberal dose of gin, with some blue curacao and pineapple juice. Very, very yummy, very fruity and light, but enough liquid courage. I put a little extra gin in there because I really needed it. Okay, so the scary thing about today is I did not do any kind of reinforcement of my steek. So when I knit my sweater, I knit it in the round, and I have little panels here where you can add in, like you did a purl stitch to notify yourself that you're doing the steek. Then you knit across in your color pattern, and then another purl stitch. And there's a couple different ways you can do steeks, but you can take a machine, like a sewing machine, and you can run it up both sides of the steek, and that kind of locks in and secures the yarn. It's really great if you're using like a wool blend or a superwash wool, because if it's superwash, it's been treated so that the fibers don't felt when they're washed, and so they won't stick together. They're not as sticky, they're a little more slippery. So if you're using superwash or a blend, that's a really great option. But I'm using non-superwash wool, 100% wool, so it's got that kind of sticky hairiness where it'll cling to itself. And then the other option is a crocheted steek, which I was going to do, but I watched videos last night and I was like, you know what, I don't want to do the extra work, and I'm using non-superwash wool, and I have a pretty large steek, and I've got a lot of fabric going on already with the button bands and everything. I don't want more fabric, so I'm just going to cut freestyle. Is the drink matching your hair intentional? Nick says. It actually wasn't originally, but then when I was trying to decide what I was mixing, I went for the blue curacao, and then I was like, oh yeah, that totally matches. I should do that, and if I add in some pineapple juice, it'll make it that tealy kind of bluish green. So it didn't start out that way, but it ended up that way for sure. All right, here we go, cutting the steek. So to do this, I'm gonna pick my middle steek section. So I have 7 stitches in the steek and then 2 purl stitches. So a 9-stitch steek total, which should be plenty of space for me not to have to worry about unraveling. I also saw a cool tip in a video I watched last night. Uni Jang of Interweave Knits was talking about steeking, and she said, you know, knitting doesn't want to unravel horizontally, it wants to unravel vertically, which is totally true. If you drop a stitch, it doesn't ever go right to left. It goes up and down, right? It ladders down and you have to go back and catch it. So that gave me a lot more courage, because I was like, oh yeah, I don't need to do this because it's not going to go horizontally and unravel my sweater. And the other reason I decided to do this is because I picked up the button bands already. So I've already got multiple layers right here in the purl stitches where I picked up those button bands, and that's adding an extra layer of security. So I've got my super sharp sewing scissors. All right, I'm a little nervous. Okay, so my center stitch, let me find it really fast. These are really tiny. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm actually going to be cutting between 2 stitches right here, and I'm going to go really slowly because I don't want to cut crookedly. Also, I knit my sweater, this Damiaka Lopa is intended to be knit on a size 4, I think. I knit it on a 2 because when I was swatching, I did not like the looseness of the fabric on a 4, and I couldn't get gauge. So I knit it on a size 2, and I just, oh god, I just lost my spot. Where am I going? I just jiggered the numbers until it worked out right. So I had to do some math to knit my sweater. I think I ended up knitting the extra large size, even though I'm a small, because of my tighter gauge. You guys, I'm sweating like really hard. I should have worn a short sleeve t-shirt, not a sweater today. This is like stressing me out. I consider myself pretty adventurous and not scared usually when it comes to my knitting. I'm pretty much down to try anything and everything. So I was like, I'm not scared of steeking, not at all. I am now feeling very hot and clammy and scared. But we soldier on. It's too late now, I've already cut. I have to say, this is actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be once I got started. Making the first cut was definitely the hardest part. If you guys have steeked before, tell me your tips, and it's a little late for that now, right? Tell me your tips now that I've started cutting. Tell me your tips and tell me if it scared you or not. And if you haven't steeked before, why haven't you steeked before? Is it just because you haven't tried color work? Is it because you don't like color work? Some people just don't like the look of it, which is totally fine. Or is it because you're scared, and what are you scared of? And I do not mean that judgmentally, obviously, I just told you how I'm super scared. I'm struggling to see some of the color work. Some of the colors are hard to see where to cut. The yellow is nice and easy. Oh my god, you guys, it's done! Oh, I feel like my face is bright red. Oh my god. Okay, it's done. It's done. Now I just gotta block this sucker. Finish weaving in my ends. Lovely. And then in the pattern, she recommends sewing this down to the inside so it's not just hanging free. And I think I'm going to do that. I'm just going to take some of this hot pink yarn and I'm just going to do a quick like running stitch along here to kind of sew that down and secure it. But I think I'm going to do that after I block it because it's really like puckering up on the button band area, and I know it'll stretch out really nicely because I've knit with this palette yarn before and it blocks just beautifully. But yeah, I'm just going to try that. So here's my Steek sweater. Ta-da! And the exciting part is, as soon as I started cutting, I felt a little bit better because I noticed it's not going anywhere. Like, these are locked in hardcore, so I don't really have to worry about any of that. So now we just block it, weave in those ends and sew it down, and then I got to put on buttons still. What kind of buttons do you think I should use on this? I love the like really bright, happy colors. I was going to do silver, but I almost feel like I need some brighter colors like purple or something, but I don't know. It's so colorful already. I don't want to compete with that. So what do you guys think? Oh, hi, Brenda. So good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Oh, I'm so glad you guys showed up. Anybody have suggestions for buttons while I recover myself? I'm seriously so hot that my face is like boiling. It's not that hot in my house either. My house is 113 years old. You can kind of see the living room back there. It's kind of messy right now, but you get it. And it's really drafty. Like, the windows are the original windows. They're over 100 years old. Some of them are newer, I think, but not very good. And it's got all kinds of holes and things all over it. And so it's a little drafty. So it's not that it's hot in here. It's just that I'm like freaking out. Steven says, I like the blue color on the band, so blue buttons would be pretty. You're right. I kind of think it's like a tealy blue. I don't know if you can see the color well enough in here. Oh yeah, you can kind of see it. It's like a really tealy blue, a little bit more blue than my hair, but really close. And my drink, it's kind of like that blue. So some tealy blue would be pretty. I just don't want anything that looks cheap, like plastic buttons at Joann's or something. I want something that looks a little more like pretty. I put a lot of work into the sweater, and so I want it to be really, really pretty. I love how the back side of this sweater looks too. All the floats along there. I thought it was so pretty. I definitely went with bright, happy colors. When I was looking up the project page on Ravelry, a lot of people had knit it in more traditional Shetland colors, which are more like heathered shades, kind of subdued, quieter, heathery greens, olives, soft blues, just very like natural colors, like the sea, the stormy seas of Shetland and stuff. And then Kristen at Vine did hers with a black background, and then she did like light heathery blues and greens and grays and pink, I think, like kind of a mauve-y pink, because mauve is her favorite color, except she calls it mauve, which I think is adorable. So yeah, I looked at all those colors, but they just kind of left me cold. I actually didn't like the sweater, but a couple people had knit it with brighter colors, like there's this one gal that had a white background and then several shades of pink without the yellow and teal, just like pinks and purples, and I thought, oh gosh, that's so pretty. But when I was picking out colors, I knew I needed to include teal because not only is it one of my favorite colors, but I just love how teal and pink look together. And I felt like it was nice and grounding, and I loved the pop of yellow. I'm not a big, like, sunny yellow. I tend to go more for golds and mustards. But I just thought with the pink and the white and everything, it just looked very clean and crisp and happy. So, yeah. I'm glad you guys could join me. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to post this on Facebook, and I'm going to see if I can figure out how to post it to my Instagram. I invited my Instagram followers to come over and join us on Facebook today. I'm not sure if very many of them made it, but yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and I will definitely be posting pictures of the finished item once it's blocked and buttons on and all that jazz. Thank you so much. See you later.